All right, shalom, shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS, better known as Great Millstone, who taught me this truth, also who rule well. And as always, we give peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. And this is your brother, Matazabath, back again with another video. And as you can see here on the screen, I took a screenshot of this comment by this gentleman calling himself by the name of Rodex Taddy. And he left this comment on one of the Akia comment board when the Ak was going into the list of Table of Nations. And the reason why I screenshotted this was because I thought that this would be a good lesson to go into because you have a lot of people still using a narrative that Esau is one, not the so-called white man, but that Esau means red, ruddy, so that he would have been so-called black because he would have been a reddish bone type of color, which today you have a lot of brothers who are called red bone, which we call light-skinned brothers today. So they will kind of use this out of context to say that when you go into that word Esau, Esau literally means red. And that he was a reddish bone color, how therefore he cannot be the Caucasian man today. And we're going to disprove that. All right. So let's read a comment. It says, false. Esau was red and hairy. And he has here in parentheses, melanated with coily hair. If you study alchemy, you'll learn we were red like mercury, melanin. All right. Which, no, when you understand the crust of the earth, we were different shades of brown. We were not red. And this is where the confusion comes in, because even when you look up the etymology of certain words, it tells you, which we're going to grab. But it goes on to say the same color as jasper stone. Jacob was plain albino. And this is funny, but then again, it's not, because at the same time, when you understand the narrative of the story, in Genesis, the 25th chapter, remember Esau was described when he was born, but Jacob wasn't given any description on what the complexion of his skin looked like. And we're going to, go into that, Lord willing, and I'm going to break that down. But it goes on to say Jacob was plain albino, which is false. He spiced his DNA with animal DNA and created Caucasoids 100. Read Genesis again and again. This is Israel. All right. Hosea 4:6, for my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Where in the scriptures can we find that Jacob spiced his DNA with animal DNA and created Caucasoids? Do you see the ignorance? Right. So let's deal with this comment. All right. So first he says Esau was red and hairy, melanated with coily hair. All right. If you study alchemy, you'll learn we are red like mercury, melanin. Now, first off, let's go to the etymology and let's look up to see if melanin is red. All right. Which was his argument. This is the word in the etymology online. Melanin, it says dark brown or black pigment found in animal bodies. 1832 modern Latin with chemical suffix in. The first element is from Greek melas or melanos, which is black. So where do you get red from? Let's read the comment again, so I'm not putting words in his mouth. He says, if you study alchemy, okay, you'll learn we are red like mercury, all right, melanin. Where the word melanin says that it's of a dark brown or black pigment. So where do you get red from in the mix of that? All right. So that's strike one. Now, let's follow this up. Esau was red and hairy, meaning melanated with coily hair. So let's go to Genesis, the 25th chapter, to get some understanding. Right. This is Genesis chapter 25, and we'll start at verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. All right, meaning fraternal twins. Verse 25, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Now, here's where the controversy comes. When you go into the Strong's Concordance, all right,
Strong's H 6215. ESAU. ESAU.
Now they'll tell you Esau means hairy, and this is where the blue letter goes off. That's incorrect. The word Esau or Ishashwar, which if you understand the Hebrew, that is let's break it down. The first letter to the right is I, middle letter Shar, and the last letter towards the left is Y, Ishashwar or Ishar, which means wasted away is he, and we're going to prove that. Okay, so the word hairy actually goes back to the Hebrew word sayar, which when you let's grab Daniel, I believe the 8th chapter, Salakia. Daniel chapter 8, verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. This is talking about Alexander the Great, who was a descendant of the Edomites. But when you go into that word rough,
Strong's H 8163. Sa'ir. Sa'ir.
this is the correct Hebrew word for hairy. Okay, so this is where you guys have to be diligent and you go into the words. So what they've done is they took the word Esau and interchanged it with with Strong's Concordance H8163 as saying he was hairy. Well, if he was hairy, this should be a separate Hebrew word, Sa'ar, not Esau. So going back to Genesis, the 25th chapter, why did they say in the definition of Esau, okay, that Esau means hairy? That's not what his name means, okay? When he was born, all right, his father Isaac called him Esau because it actually means wasted away. And when he came out, before his brother Jacob came out, Isaac would have saw, his skin pigmentation, and he would have shouted, not shouted, but he would have said, Ishar, Ishar, or Ishashwa, Ishashwa, which means his pigmentation was wasted away. Now, when you get Psalms to prove that, all right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 31 and verse 10. It says, for my life is spent with grief and my years with sighing. My strength faileth because of my iniquity and my bones are consumed. Now, when you go into that word consumed, okay.
Strong's H 6244. Ashash. Ashash.
Now, notice the Hebrew characters. Okay, it's actually in the Lashawan Kadash, Ishar. Okay, which is the first two Hebrew words to the right side is the same Hebrew characters in Esau's name. That's why it's pronounced Ishashwar, which literally means to waste away. What was wasted away on Esau? His pigmentation. Okay, remember the character. So if we go to our Hebrew, Salakia, if we go to our Hebrew character, you have here at the bottom, I don't know if you guys can see well, but at the bottom, the little Y character is I. To the left, the little W character is Shah. And then at the top, okay, right here, where it says Y, that's Esau's name, Ishashwa or Ishah, which means wasted away. This is why we always tell you guys you have to, if you know the basics to the Hebrew characters, it's easy for you to work out certain words and sounds and stuff and the actual meaning. So now going back, okay, it's Ishah, which means to waste away. Now, when you go back to Genesis real quick, because I just want to make this point, and you go into Esau's name and you break it down, okay, the first two characters of his name is what? Ishashwa, okay? Which is what we read in Proverbs 31 and 10, which means to waste away. So why would the blue letter put it equals hairy when hairy is actually Sa'ar? It's a different Strong's Concordant word. That's not what his name means. His name means to waste away. okay, or wasted away is he. You see? So when people come in here and then they go into the Strong's Concordance, this is where the confusion comes because they don't understand the breakdown of the Hebrew characters and they don't search the scriptures. Okay? So now that we got that, here's a little PDF form, and we're going to read about it here at the top where it says, who is Esau Edom? Genesis 25:25. All right, because remember later on in that chapter, his name was then changed to Edom, okay, which is Idawam, okay, which actually means red. You see that? Matter of fact, before we read this, let's grab that just to prove that. All right. Let's see here. Genesis 25:30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. So he went from being called Esau to Edom, okay, because of the red, okay, pottage, which when you grab the word Edom is Adawam, which actually means red. You see that? It means red. Okay. But when you grab, here's the confusion. When you grab, and let's see here. When you grab Idam, all right, they'll tell you Esau came out red all over like a hairy garment. Now, they use the word red and ruddy in the same sentence, okay, of man, horse, heifer, garment, water, lentils, okay? Now, notice here, this is where you have to be careful because it tells you the KJV translates Strong's H122 in the following manner. Here they have red 8 times throughout the Bible and then ruddy 1 time. Now, the reason why is because a lot of people won't pick this up, but they put red and ruddy to throw you off. There's an actual separation because when Esau was born, he wasn't ruddy. Okay, now when you click on that word ruddy, it takes you to Song of Songs 5:10. My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. Now, when you look up the word ruddy, okay, which we're going to do, Salakia. Let's look up the word ruddy. Now, ruddy is it says here, reddish of a red color. Okay, so it doesn't mean that it's actually red. It's reddish, like a rosy, healthy type red, which can be translated today as somebody being what we call a red bone, okay, or yellow tone. All right, so now let me give you an example of that. Here I have here a picture of the late, Malcolm X. Now notice his skin color. That will be considered ruddy, reddish, even though he is a so-called black man. Today, you guys will call him Redbone. But see, people will look at this and say, see, that's what Esau looked like. False. Esau was not ruddy like Malcolm X. Esau was red. Okay? And to prove that, this is what the account would have looked like back when Isaac and Rebecca had the twins. Okay? This would, on the left, would have been Jacob. And to your right, that would have been Esau. The first came out red all over, wasted away, meaning what? His pigmentation was wasted away. But look at the baby on the left, which would be, similar to how Jacob would have looked. Let's just say this is Jacob and Esau, right? Just to try to make sense of this. Look at Jacob on the left-hand side of the screen. Okay? Brown skin. Look a little reddish. Ruddy, just like Malcolm X. That's what it means. Red-ish. Ish. Not saying that he's actual red. He's red-ish. You see? But look at Esau on the right hand, which today you will call so-called albino, right? but he has no pigmentation. Hence, therefore, he is what? Wasted away. That's what his name Esau actually means. So going back, okay, let's read it. It says, who is Esau Edom, right? It says Edom or Adawam in the Hebrew means red. Now, there's another thing in scripture that shows you that King David was ready. Let me see if I can grab that. Yep. 1 Samuel 17 and 42. Highlight that for y'all real quick. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. Now, King David would have been called a red bone back then, or a yellowish tone, just like Malcolm X. Okay. Now, you look up the word ruddy for King David, it goes back to they have here Admoni, okay, which is the same Hebrew word they use for Esau. Now, pay very close attention.
Strong's H132. Admoni. Admoni.
Now, notice in the KJV, it's only been translated ruddy 2 times to depict certain people in the scriptures, but they use red 1 time. Now, I want to ask you, people that's going to be viewing this video, if Adumai actually means red, why would they make the separation of ruddy and red? Because you have to understand, when you click on red, it gives you the scripture. Genesis 25:25, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. But what people try to do that don't have the understanding and the breakdown of words and learning the Hebrew, they automatically assume that Esau was the same color, all right, as what you see here, going back to Malcolm X. But the blue letter makes the distinction that that word red is only pointed out to one character within the story, all right, which is Esau. Now, if Esau had been ruddy, okay, the same as, let's say, Malcolm X, you wouldn't need to put ruddy 2 times and then red in the scripture. You wouldn't have made that separation. You would have just called him ruddy instead of red. But they knew that he was of a different color, of a different pigmentation, going back to the same of what we see here with these 2 infants right here. Esau means wasted away. So going back to our PDF, we're reading about it. It says Esau or Ishashwa or Ishah in Hebrew means wasted away is he. That's what his actual name means. It does not mean hairy. Okay, when you understand and break down the Hebrew word. Ishash, which is what we grabbed in Psalms, the 31st chapter, verse 10, means to waste away. All right. And for those of you, let's go to it again. Let's go to Psalms. Salakia. Chapter 31, verse 10. When you go into that word consumed, it is Ishah, which means to waste away. Okay. It's very important that you guys study the Hebrew, because when you know the Hebrew characters, all right, you can actually, and when you are, are able to work out the pronunciation, it's easy for you to put the words together when you go into the Strong's Concordance, okay, which is something that brother hasn't done. So it says Esau, which means Ishashwa or Ishar in Hebrew means wasted away is he, because it's, when he was born, he had no pigmentation. Ishash means to waste away in Hebrew. Hence, Ishashwa or Ishar, Esau, wasted is he. And the Y at the end, okay, the Hebrew character Y mean he. Esau does not mean hairy. Seer or Sha'ar, which is what we read in Daniel 8 and 21, okay, pertaining to Alexander the Great. When you went into that word, sire, okay, that's what it means, hairy. And let's prove that one more time. Because the blue letter was going off when they said Esau means hairy. They don't want you to be able to link the two. All right. Daniel chapter 8, verse 21. When you look up that word rough, that's the true Hebrew word is sa'ar, which actually means hairy. So this should have been the correct Hebrew word, all right, if Esau was being described as hairy. Yes. This doesn't mean the word Esau does not mean hairy. It means wasted away is he, Ishashwa. Okay. So now that we got that understanding, all right, let's see. Now here, I wrote it in my notepad just to break it down further. You had Ishashwa or Ishar, which is Esau's name. Okay. Ishashwa. Okay. That's the actual breakdown of his name, which means wasted away is he. So let's go back. Let's go back out to that comment. So, that cuts that. Now, when it talks about Jacob was plain albino, which you have to understand going back into the story. Let's go back to Genesis, because remember, only the birth was described of both brothers. But why didn't the Bible point out Jacob on how he looked? Because you have to understand. Let's read it again. Verse 24, it says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red. Okay. And you understand that's what it literally is talking about, him being red, meaning his pigmentation. Okay. He had no melanin. Okay. All over like in hairy garment. And they called his name Esau, Ishashwa. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. Now, why didn't it give the account on how Jacob looked? Because according to this man's comment, Jacob was playing an albino, which is a damn lie. The reason it didn't give an account on how Jacob looked, because during this time, okay, if you are using, all right, common sense, everybody was the same. Nobody was of a different color pigmentation other than Esau. Everybody was different shades of brown. So there was no need, all right, for Jacob to say, yeah, Jacob came out black and Esau came out so-called white or red. Now, in my list, I have here to prove that. Going back in the ancient world, everybody was of different shades of brown. From the darkest of brown, okay, to a light shade brown. Here you have at the bottom the Moabites. Now, when you go and look up the real, which today the Moabites represents your Chinese people, but when you go and look up the black Chinese people, okay, this is how they look back then in the ancient world before they started mixing it in, okay? Then you have the Ishmaelites, the so-called Arabs today. They were so-called black. We all know the Egyptians were black, right? The Elamites, which are your East Indians today, mixed in with the Persians at the top, which would be Iran today. They were so-called black. Your Medians, which is your Japhetic people, okay? They were so-called black. They're still black today, different shades of brown, okay? And then we have your Philistines, which are your Hamitic so-called Africans, the true so-called Africans, not the ones over there in the land of Philistine today, mixed in with Ishmael and Esau. You had the Ammonites, which are your so-called Japanese today. And look who we have last at the bottom. The first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, Ishashwa, which means wasted away is he, when it talks about his pigmentation. Notice his color is separate to all the other people. So when it talks about, when he says that Jacob, going back to his comment, Salat, was albino, that's a damn lie. Because Moses came out of the same lineage as Jacob through the line of Shem. And Moses, in the story, when he put his hand in his bosom, what happened? When he took it out, it was white as snow, leprous as snow, meaning it was white. But when he took when he put his hand back into his bosom, the story goes as to say, that it returned as the same color as his body, meaning that he was a so-called black man. Nowhere in the scriptures are you going to find that Jacob mixed in his DNA with animal DNA, because Jacob was a man of the Lord. And Jacob, under the guidance of his father Isaac, was given the understanding to love the way of the Heavenly Father, to follow the commandment. In the law, it tells you, all right, because he said Jacob he spiced his DNA with animal DNA and created Caucasoid. So for you to say he spiced his DNA with animal DNA, are you saying that he committed what we call today bestiality? Because what was the law pertaining to that? Let's go to Salak. Let me close this app out because it doesn't want to work. All right, let's try. There we go. So pertaining to the law, let's get Leviticus chapter 18. Okay. And verse 23. Start at verse 22. Leviticus 18:22. Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind it is an abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Now, to the person that's unlearned, they'll say, yeah, but that was after Jacob, which means that the commandments were only given to Moses afterwards. The commandments wasn't given to Jacob, so therefore he could have. We don't know. No, you're wrong, because Adam was given the breath of life. Let's go to that. Genesis chapter 2. Right? Let's see here. Genesis 2 and verse 7. And the Lord Yahweh thy power formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. What does it mean by the breath of life? Let's get a precept. What does that breath of life actually represent? Let's get Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter, start at verse 24. It says, for wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she, meaning wisdom, is the breath of the power of the Most High, and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can no defiled thing fall into her. You see that? You got to understand that. So when you go to Sirach, or Salakia, 2nd Esdras, the 3rd chapter, let's read about it. Verse 5, and gavest a body unto Adam without soul, which was the workmanship of thy hands, and didst breathe into him the breath of life, that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And he was made living before thee. Genesis 2 and 7. Drop down to verse 7. And unto him thou gavest commandment, key word, commandment, to love thy way, which he transgressed. What is this talking about? Adam was given the law, statutes, and commandments during that time verbally. It wasn't written on stone until Moses came. So when you follow the narrative, okay, yes, even though Adam transgressed, you had Seth, which was their third son, continue in the ways of Adam up until a certain point, because the sons of God went off. And when you follow the story, out of that lineage of Seth through Adam, there was only one man that found grace, which was Noah, right? Which is in Genesis, the 6th chapter. Guess what? Noah knew the law, statutes, and commandments because Noah, okay, ended up building an altar. Okay? He not only ended up building an altar, but guess what? Noah also understood the difference between clean and unclean beast. Genesis 7 and 2, of every clean beast thou shalt take thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. Now, how would Noah understand the difference between what we can have in terms of the animals that were clean to eat versus the animals that were not clean? Because in Leviticus, the 11th chapter is the dietary law. Guess what? Noah knew of the dietary law back then. How else would he knew to separate the clean from the unclean? Because it was passed down from Adam, okay, being given the commandment to love thy way. Okay, Adam was that high priest on earth, passed down to Seth, to the sons of God, all the way to Noah. Okay, and it tells you Noah built an altar. Let me see if I can grab that. Let's see here. Pretty sure it's a Salakia. Let's see if I can find. I believe when the ark rested. Yep. Salakia, Genesis 8:20. And Noah builded an altar unto Yahweh and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl and offered burnt offerings on the altar. Wait a minute. I thought Moses was the only one who was given the law. So how could Jacob, okay, how could Jacob know what to do in that? Because Jacob continued, okay, carrying out what he was taught. After Noah passed down, okay, the ways to his sons, mainly Shem. And when you follow the narrative, who came out of Shem? When you get our Faxad, Methuselah, Peleg, okay, you had a man by the name of Abram, whose name was changed to Abraham. And then Abraham was told to what? Follow me and love thy way. Abraham ended up passing that down to his son Isaac, who passed it down to what? His son Jacob, whose name was changed later to Israel. You see? So they had the law, statutes, commandments, but it was only given to them verbally back then before Moses came on the scene. So if Noah knew to build an altar and to offer up clean beast, burnt offerings, which you don't even get this until you get to Leviticus, the 11th chapter, when it goes into the clean beast and everything, and the unclean, or what you can and cannot eat, and what to sacrifice and everything else like that. Right? But we're talking about before the flood, the sons of God had that understanding, starting with Adam, who passed that ways down. So for you to make a silly ass comment to say Jacob spiced his DNA with animal DNA, Jacob would have had the understanding to not lie carnally with the beast. Hopefully everybody understands that. And that's all I got to say on that. So call halal yumla Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Ba'Shem Rakakwadash Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing, you guys were edified. Until the next time, Shalom.